Welcome, everyone, to Homecoming at Home 2020. I'm Holly Tate, a December 2010 business management major from the Empire State Building days, and your current president of the Executive Alumni Committee. As you're joining tonight, we'd love to hear from you. I'm already seeing so many familiar names in the chat box. So let us know where you're joining from and what year you graduated. We know there are many ways that you could be spending your Friday night, and we're so glad that you're spending it with us. So welcome to the entire King's community. Whether you graduated from the Briarcliff campus, Northeastern Bible College, the Empire State Building days, or Wall Street, you all are part of the King's community, and we're so glad you're here. We've opened up the chat tonight to help facilitate community and connection among our alumni community. So we invite you to engage with each other in the chat box. You can chat privately to each other and to the group. You can chat directly with each other right there. We ask that as we facilitate community tonight, we abide by the guidelines our community set forth in our TKC Facebook alumni group, which are to show love and honor, communicate with humility, no hate speech or bullying, and please respect everyone's privacy. And if for any reason we have an outside Zoom intruder, please know that King's technical team will be standing by to take care of that. With that being said, tonight is all about connecting with each other, encouraging each other, and being reminded of the beautiful grace we have through Jesus, even in this difficult year. I now invite Rick Milham, one of my fellow alumni executive committee members, to lead us in prayer as we kick off Homecoming at Home 2020. Take it away, Rick.
Thank you so much, Holly. Would you all join me in prayer? Father God, we are so blessed that in 2020, we have an opportunity to join, although it's not personally in person, but Father, via Zoom, we can be together. We can be part of this great community that you have created through the vision of Percy Crawford and Dr. Anderson to establish the King's College in Briarcliff Manor, New York, in New York City. Lord, just a sea of alumni from so many years and so many eras. Father, an incredible history, and an unlikely history, a history that if somebody had written it out, they would have never, ever written it the way it has happened, Lord, with so many unlikely turns and twists and things that seemed impossible that you made possible. And Lord, we want to acknowledge that that is because you are truly involved, so that no one person in the history of this college can say that they were responsible or they did anything outside of your will and your power. So Lord, we're grateful that today, 82 years after this college was established, we are here via Zoom together sharing in a unified mission and vision of the King's College. Lord, we are thankful that we have a college that we can say impacts lives for the kingdom of Jesus Christ. So Father, tonight as we share this time together, and then tomorrow, Lord, I pray that you would be with us, that you would be present. Father, that you be honored in everything that we say and everything that we do. Father, we love you and we're grateful for your son who died on the cross, who is the reason that we all are here today. So we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. I'm happy to be able to also introduce the president of the King's College, Tim Gibson. I've had the opportunity to get to know him personally. It's really been a blessing. I'm very excited about his leadership at the King's College. So let me read a little bit about his bio so that you know a little more about Dr. Tim Gibson. He received his commission through the Air Force Academy in 1988 and subsequently earned a master's degree in management from Colorado Christian University and a master's in air power art and science from the School of Advanced Air Power Studies at Maxwell Air Force Base. In 2007, he was a National Security Fellow at Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government. In 2016, Tim retired from the Air Force with the rank of Brigadier General, and later that same year joined the King's College as the Executive Vice President and Director of the Center for Leadership Development. In August 2018, Tim was named the 7th president of the King's College by the Board of Trustees. Tim and his wife, Nancy, have 3 children, Mary Beth is a homeschooled high school junior this year. Drew is an Air Force lieutenant stationed at the Air Force Research Laboratory in Dayton, Ohio. And Jessica is a 2016 graduate of the King's College and went on to earn an MFA in creative producing at Columbia University in 2019. Both Tim and Nancy also served on the Parent Advisory Council at King's, making them advocates, friends, and partners of King's long before Tim was ever named president. You need to know a little more about Tim beyond that before I introduce him. There are some rumors that have gone around. One is that being that he was in the Air Force, that he was the character that Top Gun Maverick was modeled after. That is not true, unfortunately, but he did, interestingly enough, fly C-5s, which are the largest transport plane in the military. So maybe sometime we can hear more about that. I know I'd love to. So would you join me in welcoming our president of the King's College, President Tim Gibson.
Rick, thank you for that very kind introduction. As I'm sure some of you have experienced, anytime the person who's doing your intro goes off script, your spidey sense starts to tingle just a little bit because you're not sure what might come next. Hey, it really is wonderful to be with you this evening. Welcome to Homecoming 2020 at home. I love the turn of that phrase, and I recognize fully that this is not the format that we would prefer, right? We would very much prefer to be together in person and be able to share directly with each other, but that's not in the cards this year. And so I'm very thankful for the hard work of the Alumni Executive Committee, along with the staff here at the college, for pulling this virtual homecoming event together. I see it as just a terrific example of the determination of our community to connect. And just scanning through the chat box is really fun because I see the connections beginning to unfold already in very enthusiastic ways. And it doesn't matter whether you were at the Briarcliff Manor campus, the Empire State Building campus, here in the Financial District, or if you're one of our alum from the Northeastern Bible College. I see this diverse community reaching out to each other and connecting in fellowship and partnership with the mission of the King's College. And that is just a fabulous way for us to be together and to come on to this platform this evening and share just a little bit. I have one complaint this year. It's actually the same complaint that I had last year with Homecoming, and that is the events have so many different elements that I'd like to participate in that some of them are simultaneous, and I again am going to have to decide is it Bleetler or Salyers or Fotopoulos and it's just not fair. So the good news is, as I understand it, we're actually recording all of them. So if you decide that you want to attend live with Dr. Tubbs, but then later catch Doc Salyers, you're going to be able to do just that. So there are benefits to this format, and it'll be fun to see how those things all play out. So maybe my complaint isn't worthy, but we'll see. So thanks again for being here. Thank you for sharing your stories and just letting us know how you're doing. There are so many elements that are strong and healthy about the King's College, but when I'm out talking with prospective students or prospective families, if I'm out talking with donors, there are no finer examples of the actual work of the King's College than our current students and our alumni. So it really is a privilege to be with you this evening. I'm looking forward to hearing some of the interviews and catching up on some of the stories for those of you that I've known since I've joined the administration, and I'm excited to do that this evening. Okay, I will be with you for a longer period of time tomorrow, but for this evening, I've only got one task left, and it really is, it's actually a fun one. I'm very much looking forward to it. Our staff liaison for the Alumni Executive Committee is Bridget Rogers, who is our Chief Development Officer here at the college. Bridget is a lawyer by education and profession. She has also got experience in both political and nonprofit fundraising. Like the Gibsons, the Rogers were a homeschooling family and King's parents before Bridget joined King's as on the administration. And so we've got some parallel experience in that way. And very proudly, I know Bridget and her husband Mark are mom to both Elle and Annie, both girls who studied at King's, Elle graduating not so very long ago. And so it is my pleasure to now hand it off to Bridget Rogers. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Tim. I'm thrilled to be here tonight. And I'm thrilled to be involved with King's, not only as a parent, but also as the Chief Development Officer. My passion is connecting people to their passions, and know that your alma mater is a passion for thousands upon thousands around the world. No one better equips students with truth than King's, your alma mater. And you, the alumni, are living proof of the success of our mission. And it's also my privilege to work directly with you, the alumni, as the liaison to the Alumni Association. So my hope and plan is that we can work together, to continue to work together to build a mutually beneficial relationship between the alumni and the college. And you're already doing that. I see that tonight on the chat. It's just so exciting to see everyone connect. But thank you too for your help in financially supporting the mission of the college. Thank you for referring students to the college for admission. And thank you for helping us build that alumni network, which allows younger and older generations to help each other professionally and personally. And thank you for engaging with us this weekend. One of the best ways we can engage now is by letting current students share about their current experience. So let me introduce you to 4 students who are, like you, excellent representatives of King's. Would you help me welcome Deb, Micah, LG, and Ellen? They are current students at the King's College, and we'll start off by asking each of them to introduce themselves briefly and tell us what this unusual year is like at King's. Deb Consalves, will you start us off?
Yeah, my name is Deborah Gonsalves. I am a senior in the House of Susan B. Anthony, and I'm a politics, philosophy, and economics major. This year, so in leadership, last year I had the honor to serve as SBA Scholar, and this year I'm getting the honor to serve as Director of Student Events for the King's Council, which is unprecedented during these times, and King's has just been adapting. I'm constantly in awe of how King's is able to just roll with the punches. Hybrid technology is like never before in the King's classrooms, where we're able to continue with our classes, both remote and in person. And so I think, like King's always does, King's adapts, sees situations, does what they need to do, and they just continue to make us better.
Thank you, Deb. Micah?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Micah Long. I am originally from Kansas City, Missouri. I am a humanities major. I'm actually graduating this spring, and I am in the house of C.S. Lewis. Right now, I serve as the chair of the Interregnum Committee. I was on the committee last year and am super excited to head it up this year. And I think one of the things that's been interesting to me this year, being a part of this new King's world, is one more background detail about myself. I grew up homeschooled like a lot of King students, and so I was really comfortable with the online class world. I was like, yeah, I'm good. And I actually considered going fully online this semester. And I gave myself a couple trial run days. I thought, I'll go to campus a couple days, see what it's like to have masks and everything. And I actually realized by the end of that experience, a couple days of being on campus, how similar King's was, and how much the things that I really loved about it and appreciated about being here with these people were still here. From little just check-ins with people to kind of the broader network of support that you feel when you're on campus. So although the year is unusual, what I love about King's is stayed the same. To build on Deb's thing, adaptable and consistent, I guess is what I'd say.
Not even coronavirus can withhold the Kingsian way. Thank you, Micah. Ellen.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Ellen Coy. I am an English major, also in the house of Susan B. Anthony. I'm a junior here at King's. I think I already said that. I have the honor of serving as this year's Interregnum Committee Vice Chair. So I'm working alongside Micah and the rest of our team to make that competition happen. And one thing that I love about King's is the fact that it, over the last 3 years, has just become home to me. And I'm sure that a lot of you have experienced that as well. I moved here from across the country when I was barely 19 years old, and the community and the city have just come through for me in ways that I never even anticipated. So thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you, Ellen. And LG.
Yes, hello, and good evening to everyone. My name is LG Pinnell. I'm originally from Fort Worth, Texas, and I'm a senior with a business major. Last academic school year, I had the privilege of serving as the helmsman of the House of Susan B. Anthony, and I am also likely the only accidental Kingsian that you'll speak to this evening, but I'm oh so grateful for it because I have learned and grown so much at King's and truly enjoy it. And I will tell you one thing about King's during COVID season, the future is here. When I'm in a classroom, socially distanced, I'm sitting next to computer screens with human faces on them that interact just like I am in the classroom. And it has been absolutely astonishing to have people raise their hand next to me from a computer screen. So it's enjoyable, it's integrated, and definitely futuristic.
Okay, LG, you have to tell us what makes you an accidental Kingsian.
Sure. So my senior year of high school, I got an appointment to the United States Military Academy at West Point. And then I got a medical disqualification that came in quite last minute, and pivoted quickly and started calling up a couple of schools that, you know, I had kind of hadn't really looked at the backgrounds to the schools that I had applied to before West Point. And then King's came up and they were so willing to go out of their way to help me get back into school and get registered and everything, even though I was really last minute. And so I moved to New York City, having never even thought about the possibility of living in such an urban environment. And it was definitely a different experience than I was expecting compared to like being a cadet, but I've truly enjoyed it.
Oh, that's great to hear. Not what you thought, but maybe even better. Yeah. And Micah, I know you also had lots of options. All of you had lots of options for other colleges. Micah, what made you choose King's?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say I found King's simply because of the excellent education. I was really interested in liberal arts programs. I wanted to study history, philosophy, literature, theology, all of those things combined. I was super excited about that. And that's already a fairly small list. But then when I was looking at King's, what really won me over to it was what I would call its ethos. And I think that's probably deeper than a mission, right? Because a mission is something that we say, it's on the website, it's nice. But what I found in coming to King's is that people actually seem to have internalized that. So people work really hard. They're actually really interested in figuring out what it means to make disciples of all nations. They really want to grow both intellectually and in virtue and in the real world. And so for me, it was like showing up on campus, and actually, I actually met people in my first Invisa who I'm currently still friends and even roommates with, which is been really amazing. I was like, these are the people I want to be around. These are the people I want to be like. And that's what did it for me.
Beautiful. I know everybody is shaking their head in agreement. Thank you. And Ellen, I heard you say you were involved with Interregnum. Would you explain what that is and tell us why you're involved with it?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what Interregnum is, Interregnum is an annual 17-year-old this year competition, school-wide competition that our housing system has the opportunity to to engage in competitions and discussions and events surrounding a central theme. And so through my involvement with the Interregnum Committee, I was able to, I had the privilege of helping select this year's theme, which is reconciliation. We chose that theme because we realized over the summer that it was both a timely and a timeless discussion. And so we were taking the opportunity to open the conversation up about what it means to be reconciled as people and to be reconciled with God. So I know that I've significantly enjoyed being a part of planning those competitions and those opening up those opportunities for conversation. And I hope that the student body feels the same. So it's just been a wonderful experience, and I'm so grateful to be part of it, even though we have some restrictions around our interaction throughout the process of that event.
What a timely theme. Thank you. And Deb, tell us what it's like to be a King's student in 2020, not just because of coronavirus, but because you're at 56 Broadway. Not all alums, were in the city. Is it hard to be a King's student these days?
I won't lie. Yeah, it definitely is. But I think that's kind of the point of King's. King's was never meant to be easy, So I think one of the things that is so easy, like New York, you're in the center of it all. It's really easy for you to forget what you're doing. Like, why are you going to school? I know for me, I just tend to in the beginning, I thought I was just checking off boxes. I was like, okay, go to college, maybe do something post-grad, figure out what we're doing. And this year I've really been wrestling with the idea of why the King's education and why the liberal arts education, specifically Christian liberal arts. And I'm in one of the most amazing classes this semester called History of the Liberal Arts, taught by Dr. Joshua Kinlaw. And it's kind of, what is the purpose of this? Is this just so that I can become who I always thought I wanted to be? Or is this something about me being able to serve those around me? And I think the idea of King's is that we're making and creating people who are going to go out and lead those strategic institutions, but also it's like in the flagship video, it's truly the idea that we can interact differently with people, because I'm not just learning and I'm not just memorizing, but instead I'm learning what type of human do I actually want to be. And it's a really cheesy line, but it's one of my favorites. It's when you're going to look at your college, it's not just what do you want to do, but it's what type of person do you want to be. And I think King's has really done that. And no matter how rigorous the academics, no matter how hard that Dr. Tubbs class may be, at the end of the day, I know that it is making me better as a human. And that I can, when I go out and, go post-grad or do whatever plans outside of King's, I have this foundation that King's was able to provide for me.
Perfect. Beautiful, well said, and a beautiful representation of King's. Thank you all. And I'll send it back to Holly now.
Thank you so much, Bridget. Thank you to you guys, students, for sharing your stories. And wanted to remind all alumni that are here listening that Giving Tuesday has just launched, and King's has a goal of raising $200,000 by December 1st. And one thing that I just recently learned was that when you give to King's on the website, you can designate where it goes to. And one of those areas is to specifically support students in need. So you can just click the community fund and you can give to support students like we just saw. With that, I am now going to hand it over to Rebecca Mullaney, who is an alum and also the Director of Strategic Communications on staff at King's. We're so thankful for Rebecca and all that she does to send out the alumni newsletter and communicate with us as committee members. The theme of this year's Homecoming at Home is grace and human nature. And this means something really special to Rebecca. And so I'm going to hand it over to you, Rebecca, to share what this theme means for us as a King's community this year.
Thank you so much, Holly. I've been hearing a lot of House Pride tonight, so I just have to mention I'm a Ten Boom alumna and also co-advisor to the House of Barton with Jennifer Anderson. So I kind of have dual citizenship going on. Now, as you know, one of my responsibilities at King's is producing and editing the college's magazines, Year in Review in the fall and Emblem in the spring. Emblem centers on alumni stories. I see this as a way to re-articulate to students and to the wider community what we're going after as a school. We all know the mission statement, shaping institutions, transforming society based on the essential truths of Christianity and a biblical worldview. But what does that mean? one of the things I really appreciate about Kings is how we can have these debates, sometimes heated debates, about what kind of transformation we're looking for, how to advance human flourishing, what kind of policies we want to commit to. And I recognize that the faculty have different opinions about this, and all of us have different opinions about this. I mean, we're in the middle of an election season. But what I see as a central theme for Kings, as something that motivates the staff and faculty, the reason that we were founded, is that we want to follow Jesus Christ. We want to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which we've been called. We want to conform our minds to Christ, whether we're talking about a biblical worldview or us MCA majors are talking about reforming the imagination. We want to get that ultimate truth out into the way that we live and the way that we express ourselves. So with Emblem, I like to choose themes that relate to the Christian life, since that is one of these big unifying themes for us. Grace and human nature is a really big concept. It has roots in Thomas Aquinas, which I wrote about a little bit in my introduction to the magazine. But basically, I'm making a distinction between how we are as creatures and how we are as children of God. So the human nature part of the theme refers to us as created beings, that God made us. He gave us all certain attributes like a thirst for knowledge, a need for relationships, bodies that take up space and need to be fed. But where grace comes in is that if we receive Jesus Christ, we become children of God, as John 1 says, that there's something added that we didn't have in and of ourselves. Now, when I was a kid, my parents used this little acronym for grace. It was supposed to spell out grace is God's riches at Christ's expense. So that gave me this image that grace was kind of the opposite of punishment, that our sin, or my sin, makes me guilty before God, cuts me off from that relationship with my maker. And the solution is that someone, Jesus, is paying that penalty for what I've done wrong and rights the divine scales. But as I've grown a little bit and lived through life, I recognize that grace is a lot bigger than that. It's not just atonement. It's not just creating a sense of justice where there was something out of line. It's this whole wealth of God's goodness. And I also realized that the problems that we have don't just boil down to individual sin. There's lots of things that trouble us, like broken systems and unjust laws and weak bodies and minds, things that are completely outside of our control that can't be solved by asking for forgiveness. And so I've been coming to understand that grace has to do with participation in the divine life. And I'm going to read a short quote from Dorothy Day, who founded the Catholic Worker Movement and spent much of her life serving the poor in New York City. She says, grace is participation in the divine life, and that participation means for me light and understanding and conviction, of course only occasionally, but strong enough to carry me along, to lift me up out of depression, discouragement, uncertainty, doubt. And so that bigger understanding of grace is what I had in mind when I was seeking out alumni and asking them their stories. Asking that question of how has God reached into your life and met you in doubt and discouragement? And I'm just so grateful. Some of you are on this call tonight. Thank you so much for sharing honestly about that, because I think it helps all of us. We're not strong all the time. We're not always at the top of our game. We want to be. We're all very talented people. We're ambitious people, and God is using us in powerful ways. But we're also very vulnerable and needy. And I find myself drawn to figuring out those things that are lasting, even when it seems like we have nothing. I'm not interested in a religion that only works when circumstances are favorable. I don't think Jesus was either. The questions I have are, what will I still have if I fall into poverty, or if my husband dies, if my child dies? What if my dearest friends all desert me? How can I step into what T.S. Eliot called a condition of complete simplicity, costing not less than everything? It feels impossible. And humanly, it is. So we need grace. I pray what David the psalmist prayed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. That's what I want, participation in the divine life. So I hope that helps you all understand the theme. gives you something to chew on, and I'll pass it back to Holly to give some updates from the Alumni Executive Committee.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. And I would encourage everyone to check out this year's Emblem magazine. I put a link to it there in the chat box where you can read alumni stories from your fellow alumni. Now our Alumni Executive Committee would like to give you a brief overview, kind of a state of the union, if you will, of what we've been focused on this year behind the scenes under our leadership of Sarah Keenan and now myself as president. So to kick us off, I want to hand it over to Emily Schatz.
Sorry, wrong buttons. Thanks, Holly. Hi, everybody. Our committee has focused this year on reaching out and creating community across generations. Earlier this year, when our new students were quarantining because of COVID, our alumni community stepped up to provide care packages for them. Alumni have also been doing mock interviews with students to help them get ready for internship and job interviews. We have 80+ years of graduates, and we love seeing the connections happen across all those years. And now Matt Call is going to tell you more about how we build those connections.
Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Call. I'm a 2009 graduate of the Empire State Building campus and a proud member of the House of Bonhoeffer. Want to get that shout out. And this year, our committee created 2 subcommittees to focus on enhancing alumni community engagement and improving communication with the college. And the goal of those committees was to ensure that communication flows between the alumni and the administration of the college. So I and several other members of our executive committee have had the pleasure of meeting with Bridget and with Rebecca to talk about our priorities, to lay out a plan for communication, and to create a process to work with the college's communications and marketing team whenever they need to interact with alumni. And so since we started meeting with them in the spring, we've been thrilled to see that Rebecca and her team and the marketing team have taken our input and they've incorporated it into their strategy. And we've seen some really positive growth and development. So I just want to say on behalf of the Alumni Committee, thank you to Rebecca and her team, because it really has been awesome working with them. And one of the things that we've created is updated Facebook community guidelines, as well as starting weekly meetings with our Alumni Executive Committee Cabinet and Bridget Rogers. So I want to hand it back to Holly so that she can talk a little bit more about the Facebook guidelines.
Thank you so much, Matt. Yes, Sarah Keenan and myself and our committee spent so much time really wanting to craft Facebook guidelines to facilitate engaging community inside of Facebook. So if you're not a member of our TKC alumni Facebook group, we'll put it there in the chat. We would love for you to join us. And if you'll just take a look, the guidelines are posted there at the top. We've revised them this year in order to make as safe a place as possible for us to engage and support each other and encourage each other. And we've got some more content coming your way as we end this year and go into 2021. And now I would like to hand it over to Chris Ross, who's going to walk through our alumni awards process. Take it away, Chris.
Hey everyone, my name is Chris Ross. I'm a graduate from 2010 and a very proud alum of the House of Lewis. One of my absolute favorite parts of being part of this alumni committee for the last 8 years, I think, has been getting to work on the annual alumni awards process. We who are on the committee get to hear so many cool stories about what our fellow alumni are doing to serve their communities, to work in their ministries, and to develop their professions. And the 4 alumni awards that we give out each year give us a chance to tell you all, the alumni community, some of the best stories that we hear each year. So anybody who's attended homecoming before knows that we normally give them out at homecoming. But this year we decided we wanted to do something a little bit differently, and we wanted to highlight what these awards were at homecoming so that we could invite you to participate in telling your fellow alumni story. And then we'll do a later award session, hopefully early next year. And so we wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of what these awards are so you can start thinking about who among your friends and your colleagues have stories that all alumni should hear. So I'm dropping a link into the chat right now where you can get a little bit more information about these awards. And there's a link there to a Google form where you can actually make your own nominations. And we're going to have that open until November 15th. And I would love to have a lot of nominations in there that we can sort through. So let me just quickly recap some of the awards. We have 4, like I said, and you can get a full description on the link that I just shared. But I'll walk through them real quick. So first we have the J. Stanley Oaks Award. Many of you will remember that when TKC moved into New York City, it was under the leadership of President Oaks. This award is something that honors the spirit, the pioneering spirit with which he helped reopen King's and reestablish it in New York City. So this award honors that spirit and honors an alumnus or an alumna who is living out TKC's mission of transforming national institutions through courage, integrity, vision, and tenacity. Second, we have the Charles W. Anderson Award. This is an award that honors the legacy of the founder of Northeastern Bible College. It is given to an alum of NBC or TKC who is in full-time vocational ministry and who embodies NBC's vision of sharing Christ with a lost world through a life of faithfulness, sacrifice, and a pioneering spirit. Third, we have the Distinguished Service Award. This is an award that we give out on occasion to honor an alum who has given an invaluable service either to King's, the college, or to the Alumni Association, or to both. And finally, we have the Alumnus or Alumna of the Year Award. We grant this award to alumni who have distinguished themselves in their vocational field and who exemplify TKC's Christian heritage through a life dedicated to the Lord. So like I said, I love hearing the stories of alumni who are pioneers, who are serving fervently in ministry, and who are distinguished leaders in their community. My network only reaches so far, and the network of the other members of the community only reaches so far. So we would love to have you all step in, give us some names, give us some stories, help us know who to honor. And like I said, dropped a link in the chat box. It's available on the website and will show up in the next alumni newsletter. Please send us your nominations by November 15th. So now I'm going to pass the mic on to Bridget Rogers again, and she's going to talk about some of our exciting plans for regional alumni chapters.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. I'm excited to see the award nominees and learn more about you all. As we look toward the future, I want to tell you about alumni chapters. You know, our challenge is to connect with you all over the world. And we feel like we can do that best by forming alumni chapters. So plans are already underway to shape 3 distinct chapters around the country next year: California, Washington, D.C., and Texas. So the chapters will focus on fellowship and networking, referring high school students for admission, and sharing the great story of your alma mater. Just a great adventure to be together. If you're interested or helping or starting a chapter in your state, will you let me know? I'll put my email address in the chat. Now I'll hand it off for a little bit more information from Chris Kendall.
Thanks. I just want to talk for a second about joining the committee. So this year, the committee has 3 open spots moving into next year. We do a lot of fun stuff. Homecoming is just one of the great things that we get to do each year. You've heard Matt and Holly and Chris and Emily all talk about some of the other stuff that we've gotten a chance to do. So if you're interested in joining, you can email us at alumni@tkc.edu and just let us know you're interested in learning more, and we'd be happy to talk to you about it. Thanks very much. And with that, I'll pass it back over to Holly.
Thank you so much, guys. And now it's the time of the evening where we get to hear from you all, alumni. So I'm going to have John Seidel, another one of my fellow alumni executive committee members, interview a few of you to hear your stories and what you've been up to since you graduated. And then after that, we will go into our virtual campus reunions. With that, John, take it away.
Man, guys, I don't know about you, but I'm watching the chat and I'm looking at everything. Like, this has been such a great night. And, you know, if you look in the chat, you see stories and it's just incredible. And so in that vein of stories, I want to bring on Moses and Marilette, who a lot of you know, but some of you don't. And they are just such an incredible couple who met at King's. And so Moses and Marilette, I want to ask you, like, how are you doing? What have you been doing since graduation? I think you have maybe about 25 kids, but maybe not, you know, set me straight there. and just kind of what are you guys doing? I know it's really exciting what you guys are doing in the New York City area.
Man, it is great to be 5, but it does.
In New York City, it's basically 25.
Yeah, it feels like a lot. Yeah, Marilyn and I, we met back in college, and we've been, married for over 9 years and 5 kiddos. If kids interrupt us, we apologize. If the screen goes black, we're muted. We're probably screaming at them or telling them to go back to bed. But yeah, we've been doing full-time ministry with Cru over the last 10 years, primarily working with high school students, the youth space. But over the last couple of months, we've actually transitioned to more the marriage and family space through a ministry called Family Life. It's a ministry of Cru. And really the heart is, how do we connect to families far from God and far from the church? And it's very much kind of pioneering something from scratch, trusting the Lord to come alongside the various communities, various churches, and how do we connect families who are far from God and far from the church. And as we made that transition, man, it's definitely been tough. It's been challenging. Life kind of throws you curveballs, and I'll just kind of, Marilette, share a little bit about some of the challenges that we faced over the last couple of months.
Yes, I mean, 2020 hasn't been easy for any of us, but for us especially, in early July, I was hospitalized for my mental illness, and I was actually diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And so a lot of the things that were happening around me kind of became this perfect storm to take my mental health. My dad had been battling this bone marrow disease that made his immune system just non-existent. So, with virus, it was just nerve-wracking for me. It was just worrying. I was just worrying about him all the time. As ministers of the gospel, there was a lot of grief happening around us. We lost a neighbor across the street to the virus. We lost one of the young ladies that I mentor that I'm really close to. She lost her mom to the virus. So it was just these things happening in our peripheral. On top of that, just the stresses of homeschooling our 5 kids. And it just was a lot for this year for us. And so on top of that, later on in the summer, I lost my dad, actually, not to the virus, but my dad passed away. So it has just been a refining fire for us this season. I know it hasn't been easy for any of us, but yeah, this is definitely the hardest year of our marriage so far. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and God meets us in that refinement
Amen.
process. So that's what Rebecca was talking about just a few minutes ago. So that's
listen, I will say that I met my wife because of Family Life, right? Her parents were Family lifers, if you will, and that's how she ended up at King's, and I met her. So I'm very thankful to the Family Life ministry. And Marilette, I'm so thankful for your openness. You have been so open in the Facebook group. You have been so open with us in your blog posts. And so I just, as someone who is also struggled with mental health and has written about that, I just appreciate that more than you could ever know. And you guys are just such an incredible testament to what God can do. And we just love you so much. We really do. So thank you. And I'll transition a little bit to Hope Chavez, who is joining us. Hope, share a little bit about your journey. What year did you graduate? What are you doing now? We would just love to hear about that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, John. So I was class of 2014. I was an MCA major. I minored in business administration and a proud alum of the House of Barton. So it feels like I was actually in Professor Craig and Day's class the other day, just talking about my career journey and all these things. And she described it as a bit of like a dream career journey for people who work in theater. And I would not normally characterize it that way, but I do definitely attribute my time at King's and the connections and the work that I was able to do there for all the blessings that I've seen in my life. So I've been committed to theater ever since being in King's and since then. So I started working in a commercial Broadway office. Then I transitioned, really found my connection is in the nonprofit theater community. I don't think it's anything surprise to anyone, especially those of us who are attracted to King's, that I'm really a mission-driven person. I'm a values-driven person, and the nonprofit community was where I was able to do that in terms of art making. So
I have had a lot of different jobs producing theater all over New York City, but as of last September, I moved here to New Haven, Connecticut. I live here with my partner, Sulianette, and I am the artistic producer at Long Wharf Theater, which basically for me and for those who don't necessarily work in theater, I will let you know that that's basically like the number 2 position in this regional theater. So it's a real blessing. These jobs don't open up often. And it's definitely with lots of references and connections from my years at King's that have gotten me here. So that's what I do. I produce theater, and like right now, I'm not producing what I would normally call theater. I'm really grateful to still have a job. That's definitely not true of a lot of folks who work in this sector. The job loss rate here is incredible, especially to artists. Like artists are really at the margins right now because they just didn't have that sustained full-time income. So I'm producing like virtual things. I'm learning about film. I'm just like trying to become a jack of all trades to continue to create experiences for community, for storytelling, the things that I think really ground us in like our human experience.
That is so awesome to hear. I love that. You know, I think as someone who was at King's when it was mostly PP&E and business, I would have, you know, the MCA degree is something I probably would have pursued. And, you know, I've said this before, but I just appreciate the professors at King's who were in that time able to, you know, kind of move and, you know, my senior thesis at the time was writing a book. And I just love that. And I love that kind of helped pave the way, and that openness paved the way for people like you, Hope. So thank you. Thank you for sharing. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And so now I want to turn to Melissa McGinnis. Melissa, we'd love to hear from you. We know you weren't a recent graduate like maybe some of us, but we do want to hear what, you know, when you graduated, what campus, and what you're doing now.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yes, I'm not a recent graduate. I'm a 1991 graduate from the Briarcliff campus. Thanks for having me here. I don't know if I can explain my story in 2 minutes, but when I graduated from King's, my first job was at King's. So there's a lot of unfamiliar names because I know there's a lot of young people, and that's exciting for me to see. But I did work for 3.5 years at the Briarcliff Manor in the admissions office at King's. So I was recruiting students, and I was there until Briarcliff closed its doors. So it was an amazing time. It was a difficult but amazing, rewarding time. And from there, I ended up landing in Pennsylvania once King's doors closed in Briarcliff with a fellow alum, and got a job at the University of Pennsylvania working in electrical engineering, random. Wasn't doing admissions, but I needed a break after the time at King's. And from there, I got a little rough. Pennsylvania in the 90s, Philly in the 90s was a little bit rough, but so I ended up, a list of circumstances, getting a job at Princeton University. So I worked at what is formerly known as the Woodrow Wilson School of Public and International Affairs, and I worked there for 22 years. So it was quite the career, and again, through another list of, sequence of circumstances, I ended up, it was time to move on, and I found a job in that similar vein at Yale University. So I landed here in just north of Hope. I'm in a little town north of New Haven, and working in graduate admissions, assistant director of graduate admissions at the Jackson Institute for Global Affairs. And I pinch myself every day, maybe pre-COVID, I pinch myself every day. Because this, I went to King's, I was from a small town in upstate New York. I did my master's degree at Azusa Pacific, graduated in 2010. And so I've been called a little bit of a unicorn. Being Christian higher educated, but I'm on my third Ivy League institution for employment. And last year my recruiting travels took me to the pyramids in Giza and camel riding in Abu Dhabi. And I keep thinking back to, my time at King's, and I was like, how did I end up here? And I just am really grateful to how God sort of led me through this and keeps me connected. I was a member of the Alumni Executive Committee for quite a number of years. So yeah, I've been around, and it's great to see some new people around.
Oh, that is so awesome. I thank you for sharing that. You know, I think there's plenty of us who remember riding the dinky to Princeton to take some, in my era, take oral exams with Dr. Tubbs. And so to know that you were there in that area, and to also know that we can now, if any of us want to do graduate admissions or get a graduate degree, we will just now come to you, and it'll be that simple and perfect, and you will admit us all. So thank you, Melissa. It's really great to know that our influence is in just on it. I would say in one hand unexpected, but in others expected, right? This is where we want to be. So thank you. I want to introduce everyone to Dave Genberg. You know, some of you may know, some of you may not quite fully understand that we, the King's College, absorbed and is part of Northeast Bible College. We have a member of a graduate of Northeast Bible College on our alumni committee, and Steve French. And so I want to welcome Dave. For the people who are a part of NBC, you may know Dave, maybe you don't. But Dave, tell us your story. What year did you graduate? What do you remember from the NBC days and the campus? And what does your journey look like since graduating?
Hey, can you hear me?
We can, Dave, we can.
There's, okay, I should be here. All right. No, yes?
Yeah, you're all good, Dave. We got you.
I apologize for that. Been sitting here listening to everyone. So hello, everyone. It has been fun to catch up on some of the changes and the growth of the King's College. I am an NBC graduate, Northeastern Bible College on the Essex Fells campus in New Jersey. And I graduated, and believe it or not, 1976. So one of the things that you say, what was fun, I happened to be part of the 1973 National Championship soccer team. And that kind of was sports. For me, Bible and sports were kind of the highlight of my time at Northeastern. And I had some great friends, still have some great friends from Northeastern, with a lot of family members who attended as well. Went on to Talbot Theological Seminary, graduated with master's degrees from Biola University in Talbot. And then I have been an associate pastor at 5 different churches in 5 different places in the country: Southern California, Northern California, and then here in where I live now in central Minnesota, as well as southern Minnesota. So my jobs over the years, really as an associate pastor, have given me the opportunity to do teaching, training, team building. The 2 things that have been the highlight of the ministry that I've served with, I've been the pastor of ministry development in most of those circumstances, and usually the missions outreach pastor. And the blast being the missions outreach pastor is I've been on 17 missions trips from Asia to South America to Europe.
Well, thank you, Dave. I'm not sure if the trophies that we are seeing, you know, in your upper left have anything to do with the NBC National Championship, but let's just pretend that they do, and that you staged this exactly for this shot. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for bringing that element to us. I want to throw it back to Holly. Like she said in the chat, we're getting ready to break out into the campus rooms, and I can't wait for that. I'm really excited.
Thank you, John. You're such a great interviewer. Thank you so much to Moses and Marilette, Hope, Melissa, and Dave. We're so grateful for you being here and sharing your stories with us. Guys, it is time for our virtual campus reunions. So check out the link in the chat box. Megan is going to post the links there. You find your campus there. You're either Wall Street, Briarcliff, NBC, or ESB. Click there and you will be taken into the reunion. So you're gonna have to close out this webinar and go into your Zoom meeting where you will find your host and fellow alum. I'm gonna stay here if anybody has trouble. So everybody go ahead, sign off of this one and click your reunion link there, and we will see you over in your virtual campus reunion. If you're having any trouble, you can chat it there and I will do my best to help you out. Thanks so much, everybody.